When's the last time you took a good look at yourself in the mirror? No, not that mirror. The musical mirror. When was the last time you strategically recorded yourself as a practice method to get honest feedback on your playing? If you're truly honest about improving and taking your playing to the next level, one of the best things you can do for yourself is hit the record button. Imagine trying to lose weight but never stepping on a scale or looking at yourself in the mirror. How would you know if you're progressing? You might feel different, but you wouldn't have concrete proof. Recording yourself as a musician serves the same purpose. It's your mirror. It reflects what's actually happening when you're playing. And it's your scale. It measures your growth over time. Today we'll be diving into why recording yourself is the ultimate tool for tracking your progress, identifying weaknesses, and making your practice sessions more effective. Let's jump in. Now, if you're not recording yourself or haven't done it so far, there's essentially 3 reasons. 1, you just don't know about this method or really haven't thought about it as a method to practice. Number 2, you're lazy. Number 3, you know you will not like what you hear or what you see in that mirror. Now, all of these are curable, but it's going to require your intent. Now, if you've achieved anything in your life, which I'm sure you have, you know it takes intent. And tracking or measuring progress is really the only way to ensure you're continually growing and taking steps towards an objective. Unlike weight loss, though, or any number-based metric, music is subtle and quite different. So the tracking and measuring comes through listening, not in a quantifiable, specific numeric result, but through the quality of what you hear. Today, there's truly no excuse. It's just never been easier to actually record yourself and get honest feedback on your playing. So here's why recording yourself is a game changer for your musical journey. Number 1, objective feedback. Listening back removes the in-the-moment bias. Sometimes what feels good while you're playing might actually sound quite messy. Number 2, spotting mistakes. Recordings highlight timing issues, tone inconsistencies, or miss notes that you might not notice while focused on playing. Number 3, tracking progress. Just like progress photos in fitness, keeping old recordings lets you hear how far you've come. There's just nothing more motivating than being able to witness your own progress over time and actually realizing that your hard work is paying off. Number 4, building confidence. When you listen back and think, wow, I nailed it, it builds up a mental library of wins that you can then draw upon in future performances. Number 5, preparing for performances. If you're working on a set list or a solo, recording it is like a dress rehearsal. It lets you fine-tune your dynamics, your phrasing, and your overall flow. Now, I get it. Listening to yourself can be terrifying at first. I still remember my first times in the studio. And even to this day, hitting that record button is by far the greatest learning and growing experience for me as a musician. For me, it's even more challenging than playing live, because live you can really lean on the audience or your bandmates or just the environment and the energy. But in a studio, in a booth, or even at home, just hitting that record button, it's like all of a sudden you're naked in front of that mirror. So believe me, I know how it feels when you hit that record button and all of a sudden what you think you know, you realize you don't know. Passages and phrases that you thought you had mastered, the record button will bring everything up and out just like a huge magnifying lens. But do yourself a favor and don't let that fear hold you back. Every musician goes through that cringe phase of hearing themselves back and just... Always remember, you're not judging, you're learning. So ready to start? Here are a few tips. Number 1, keep it simple. You don't need a fancy setup. These days a phone can be more than enough. Number 2, focus on small sections. Start by recording a specific lick, solo, or rhythm pattern rather than overwhelming yourself with like an entire piece. Number 3, listen critically, but not too critically. Take notes on what went well and what needs improvement. And number 4, make it a habit. That doesn't mean you have to record yourself every single day, but just at least once or a few times a week, get into the habit of looking at yourself in that mirror. Now I'll share a personal example which hopefully will clarify a little bit better what I'm talking about. Okay, so to give you a quick example, 12 years ago I recorded this version of Valse De Wasso 12 years ago. And let's take a quick listen. Now we're going to compare it with the same tune that I recorded about 3 years ago. And despite being, of course, the quality a little bit better, it's still coming from simply a phone. It's a phone recording, so nothing too articulate, but see if you notice what I notice. So one of the most obvious things that I noticed in this comparison between the two videos is a lot less flailing in my left hand. In other words, a lot less excursion of my left hand fingers to and from the neck as I'm going through arpeggios and the scales of this waltz. And to me that results in an obvious, much more cohesive sound, much more uniform expression of the whole piece. Whereas in the first video I noticed that there's some little holes here and there. Because my hands tend to leave the neck so much, it's a bit harder for me to gain that consistent sound throughout all the phrases. Also the right hand, in the first video I noticed that at times with the pick I end up banging on the guitar a little bit because my right hand is a little bit more out of control. As opposed to in the second video, my right hand seems to land and rest stroke pretty accurately, or at least a lot more accurately than on the first video. So besides hearing those two things, I can also see them. So I do highly recommend also, if possible, when you record yourself, record video just as much as audio, or at least alternate between the two. But of course the visual element and aspect of recording is just as useful as the audio. It's amazing for me to think. I mean, I recorded that one piece 12 years ago, and then the second version of it is only 3 years ago, so there's a 9-year differential. But I really worked on this piece a lot, so I was hoping to see some improvement. But I can definitely see it, jokes aside, and hear it. And you know, again, having recorded it and having a baseline to work with, then helped me really refine what I thought needed to be improved. So as good as just recording your audio is, also alternate with recording yourself in video and audio so that you can not only hear yourself but also see yourself. Because having clean and visually composed technique is also a big factor in improving your overall sound. In fact, besides recording yourself, video and audio, I also recommend using the mirror or a screen every now and then to really practice as you watch yourself so that you can really keep track of your right and left hand as you practice. Again, as mentioned in the video, if playing a whole piece like this is a bit too challenging, break it up in manageable chunks, in smaller parts, and start recording yourself playing those individual smaller parts first. Then as you consolidate them over time, you can then put them all together. And then of course, start playing at a speed which you can control. In other words, a speed where you can control tone and timing.
So if you're serious about improving, start recording yourself as soon as possible and regularly. Treat it like your musical mirror or scale. It's not there to judge you, it's there to help you grow. Let me know in the comments below if you're already doing that and what you notice in your playing, or if you have any other tips and suggestions. Also remember, in the description there are some resources that I think might help. And if you've enjoyed or gotten value from this video, you know all the YouTubey stuff. Hit subscribe, like, share. Until next, keep practicing and keep swinging.